The incessant buzzing of Elijah Monroe's comm unit dragged him from a rare moment of sleep. Third pipeline breach this week. New Horizon Colony wasn't exactly the engineering marvel that Earth's promotional videos had promised. 6 years in, and the infrastructure was already failing. Monroe, he rasped into the device. Location. Section 14B, old maintenance tunnels, the ones beneath the Eastern District, came the dispatcher's voice. Sewage backup threatening residential zone. Elijah sighed, running a hand through his unruly dark hair. On my way. The Eastern District had been built atop a network of tunnels from the colony's early days, obsolete now that the newer systems had been installed, but still connected to the grid. Nobody went down there anymore. Nobody had reason to. 2 hours later, Elijah was knee-deep in murky water, his headlamp cutting through the gloom of the forgotten passageways. His diagnostic tool indicated the breach was further in, past a collapsed section that hadn't appeared on any of his maps. Control, I'm going to need to manually reroute through Section 16, he reported, wedging himself through a narrow opening in the fallen concrete. Maps aren't matching what I'm seeing down here. Static answered him, too deep for clear signals. As he squeezed through the gap, his boot caught on something soft, not debris fabric. Elijah frowned, shining his light downward. A tattered blanket lay half-submerged in the tunnel water. Strange. Then he heard it, a soft whimper echoing from somewhere ahead. Hello, he called, his voice bouncing off the curved walls. Someone there. Silence, then another sound, the shuffling of movement. Following the noise, Elijah found himself in a larger chamber where several tunnel sections converged. His light swept across the walls, revealing crude markings, not graffiti, but symbols he didn't recognize. And there, huddled in the corner, was a figure. Hey, he said softly, approaching slowly. Are you hurt? Do you need help? The figure raised its head and Elijah froze, not human. The colony shared the planet with the indigenous Kalari species, but contact was minimal and strictly regulated. This was a female Kalari, her iridescent skin dulled with illness and malnutrition, her four-fingered hands trembling as she shielded her eyes from his light. I won't hurt you, Elijah said, lowering his beam. Are you alone down here? A soft noise from behind had him turning. Not alone. From the shadows, more figures emerged, at least a dozen Kalari females of varying ages, all showing signs of severe deprivation. Among them, a few children clung to their mothers. What in God's name? Elijah whispered. The first Kalari he'd spotted spoke, her voice barely audible. Go tell no one. Her command was in broken human English, surprising Elijah further. You speak our language. Some learned before, she gestured to a scar running across her neck and shoulder. Before marked unclean. Elijah's engineering training included basic Kalari cultural awareness. He knew their society was rigidly hierarchical, with strict codes about physical perfection. Those deemed imperfect were removed from society, but he'd assumed that meant relegated to lower castes, not this. You live down here, all of you. A smaller Kalari approached, clutching what appeared to be a child. No choice, cast out, tainted by war, defective births, no place above. Elijah's stomach twisted as he noticed makeshift beds fashioned from discarded materials, crude containers collecting dripping water, and pitiful attempts at creating warmth in the damp chill. I'm Elijah, he said, removing his work helmet. What's your name? The Kalari who'd first spoken hesitated. Name taken, no longer person. Everyone's a person, Elijah insisted gently. What were you called before? Another long pause. Thalassa. Thalassa, he repeated, nodding. The pipeline breach, it's flooding your home, isn't it? Let me fix it, then I'll come back with food, medicine. Fear flashed across her features. No return, dangerous for you, forbidden to help unclean. Elijah straightened, a determination settling over him that he hadn't felt in years. I decide what's forbidden to me, I'll be back tonight. As he turned to leave, Thalassa caught his sleeve with trembling fingers. Why help? Elijah looked at the frightened faces surrounding him, women and children living in filth and darkness, forgotten by two civilizations. Because, he said simply, no one should have to live like ghosts. 3 days had passed since Elijah's discovery. Each night after his shift, he'd return to the tunnels with supplies, nutrient packs, water purifiers, medical kits pilfered from the colony infirmary. Tonight he carried something special. Blankets, warm and clean, folded neatly in his backpack. Thalassa, Elijah called softly as he navigated the narrow passage he'd come to know well. It's me. Movement stirred in the shadows. A slender figure emerged, not Thalassa but another Kalari female, taller with distinctive violet markings along her arms. Unlike the others, she stood straight, her posture defiant despite her circumstances. Engineer Monroe, she said, her English surprisingly fluent. My sister is tending to the young ones, I am Nima. Elijah nodded, setting down his pack. You speak our language well. I was a cultural liaison before. She gestured to her left leg, which Elijah now noticed was badly damaged, forcing her to walk with a pronounced limp. Before an explosion during the border conflicts, damaged goods are removed from Kalari society. That's barbaric, Elijah said, unpacking the blankets. Nima's expression hardened. Is it so different from humans? Your colony ignores these tunnels, pretends they don't exist, convenient for hiding inconvenient truths. Her words stung with accuracy. Fair point, but I'm here now. Yes, she acknowledged, her tone softening slightly. You are here, why? Elijah had asked himself the same question, because it's right, simple as that. For the first time, Nima's expression shifted to something like curiosity. Nothing is that simple, Elijah Monroe. As they distributed the blankets, Elijah counted 17 Kalari females and 5 children. Some, like Thalassa, bore physical scars. Others appeared physically whole but displayed behaviors suggesting psychological trauma. Nima explained in hushed tones. Some were veterans of the Kalari human border conflicts, others casualties of rigid social enforcement, a few born with genetic variations deemed unacceptable. How long have you been down here? Elijah asked as he showed 2 Kalari females how to operate the portable heater he'd brought. Some, like Thalassa, almost 3 Earth years, Nima replied. I joined 8 months ago, the youngest arrived just weeks ago. Elijah's hands paused. They're still casting people out now during the peace treaty negotiations. Treaties are for those deemed worthy of protection, Nima said bitterly. We are statistical anomalies, better forgotten. Later, as Elijah prepared to leave, Nima walked him to the tunnel entrance. An awkward silence hung between them. Tomorrow, he finally said, I'm bringing someone else, a doctor. She can help with infections, malnutrition. Alarm flashed across Nima's features. No, more humans mean discovery. This doctor keeps confidences, Elijah insisted. Without proper medical care, you're all at risk. He hesitated, then added softly, I noticed the children's coughs. Nima's resistance faltered. She glanced back toward the chamber where 2 small Kalari children slept fitfully under new blankets. One doctor, she conceded. She comes blindfolded through the tunnels. Elijah nodded, thank you for trusting me. As he turned to go, Nima caught his arm. Her touch was startlingly warm against his skin. Engineer Monroe, Elijah, she said, her voice low, if your people discover us, if our people learn you're helping us. I know the risks, he interrupted gently. Nima's large, luminescent eyes studied his face. Perhaps you do, she murmured. Until tomorrow, then. The weight of her hand lingered on his arm long after he'd returned to the surface. The colony's central plaza bustled with midday activity as Elijah hurried through the crowd. 1 month into the rescue operation, and their small group of helpers had grown. Dr. Olivia Patel, who treated the tunnel dwellers' many ailments, Jorge Vega, who engineered a water filtration system, and now, hopefully, Priya Kapoor, investigative journalist for the Interstellar Broadcasting Network. You're late, Priya remarked as Elijah slid into the seat across from her. Her sharp eyes missed nothing, from his disheveled appearance to the dark circles under his eyes. Pipeline emergency, he explained, which wasn't entirely a lie. He'd been installing proper sewage bypasses around the Kalari settlement. Priya tapped her datapad impatiently. So, you claim to have a story that would shake the foundations of human-Kalari relations. Dramatic words, Engineer Monroe. Elijah glanced around before leaning forward. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this table unless you agree to my conditions. 20 minutes later, Priya's professional composure had cracked. If confirmed, this is criminal neglect on both sides. Human colonial administration turning a blind eye, Kalari officials engaging in systemic persecution. Now you understand why we need to be careful, Elijah said. These women and children are vulnerable. Exposure without protection could be disastrous. Priya's journalist instincts were clearly at war with her humanity. I need evidence, interviews, footage. Which is why I contacted you, Elijah interrupted. But you meet them first without recording equipment, they decide if they trust you. That evening, Priya stood speechless in the expanded chamber that now served as the main living space for the Kalari refugees. Jorge's lighting system cast a warm glow over the space, revealing the improvements of the past weeks: proper beds, a sanitation area, a rudimentary kitchen. But it was still undeniably an underground slum. Nima approached, having become the de facto leader of the group. You are the truth-teller, she said to Priya. I'm a journalist, Priya corrected gently. I help people's stories be heard. Some stories are dangerous, Thalassa commented from where she sat mending clothing. Elijah watched as Priya knelt to eye level with a small Kalari child who peered at her curiously. Yes, Priya agreed, but silence can be more dangerous still. After hours of conversation, Priya agreed to produce a documentary, faces obscured, locations disguised but stories told in the refugees' own words. As she prepared to leave, colony security alerts blared through everyone's comm units. Attention all citizens. Increased restrictions on access to maintenance tunnels due to structural concerns. Unauthorized entry will result in severe penalties. This is a public safety measure. Elijah and Priya exchanged alarmed glances. Coincidence, she murmured. I don't believe in coincidences, Elijah replied, his eyes finding Nima's across the room. The Kalari woman's expression confirmed his fears someone knew something. Later, while the others slept, Elijah and Nima sat reviewing security measures on his portable terminal. We need an evacuation plan, he said, rubbing his tired eyes. If they come looking. When's Nima corrected grimly, when they come looking. Their shoulders touched as they huddled over the screen. The proximity sent an inappropriate flutter through Elijah's chest given the gravity of their situation. Elijah, Nima said softly, if discovery is inevitable, perhaps we should accelerate Priya's timeline. It's risky, he warned. We don't have a safe alternative location yet. Nima's hand found his in the dimness. Risk is all we have left. My people have lived in darkness long enough. Elijah looked at their intertwined hands, his 5 fingers wrapped around her 4 different, yet fitting together perfectly. You're right, he agreed. Time to bring this into the light. The documentary aired on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, Colonial Administrator Donnelly had issued warrants for the arrest of Elijah Monroe, Olivia Patel, Jorge Vega, and Priya Kapoor on charges of interfering with diplomatic relations and harboring undocumented alien residents. By Thursday, public protests had erupted across 3 colonial settlements. By Friday, Earth's central government was demanding answers from both colonial leadership and Kalari officials. But in the tunnels beneath the Eastern District, what mattered was the convoy of security vehicles assembling above. They're claiming it's a health inspection, Jorge reported, slipping into their emergency command center, a converted maintenance room adjacent to the main chamber. But they're armed. Elijah nodded grimly. How long? 2 hours, maybe less, Jorge replied. Dr. Patel entered, her medical bag slung over her shoulder. I've prepared emergency kits for each family unit. The children and pregnant females are sedated for transport. Nima stood from where she'd been studying evacuation routes. In the weeks since Priya's first visit, Nima had grown stronger, proper nutrition and medical care erasing years of deprivation. She'd cut her hair short in the human style, the dark strands framing her face, accentuating the striking violet markings that once marked her as a cultural liaison. The northern emergency exit is our best option, she stated, her voice steady despite the crisis. It emerges 3 kilometers outside colony boundaries, within range of the transport Jorge arranged. Elijah nodded, trying to focus on logistics rather than the knot of fear in his stomach. 26 Kalari refugees, 4 wanted humans, a 3-kilometer journey through unmapped terrain and security forces closing in. The odds were grim. As the others left to continue preparations, Nima remained. We need to talk, she said quietly, about what happens if this fails. Elijah shook his head. It won't. Elijah, she stepped closer. My people have a saying, hope without honesty is a blade that cuts its wielder. We must be honest now. Their eyes met. In the weeks working side by side, something had grown between them, unspoken but undeniable. More than alliance, more than friendship. If we're captured, Elijah acknowledged reluctantly, the Kalari government will demand custody of their citizens. And our government might comply to preserve relations. They will make examples of us, Nima said, her voice steady despite her words. The imperfect ones who dared to claim dignity, the human who violated boundaries. Elijah's hands found hers. Then we don't get captured. Something shifted in Nima's expression, a decision made. Without warning, she leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his in the traditional Kalari gesture of deepest intimacy. Her skin was warm against his, the faint electrical charge that all Kalari possessed sending a pleasant tingle across his skin. In my culture, she whispered, this means my spirit recognizes yours. Even if our bodies cannot follow the same path, our spirits are aligned. Elijah's throat tightened with emotion. Slowly, he tilted his face, his lips finding hers in the human gesture of affection. For a breathless moment, 2 worlds merged. An alarm shattered the moment. Jorge's voice came through the comm. They're moving in early, 30 minutes tops. They broke apart, training instantly replacing vulnerability. I'll take point with Thalas's group, Elijah said, already moving toward the door. Nima nodded, all business now. I'll bring up the rear guard with Olivia. At the threshold, Elijah paused, looking back at the Kalari woman who had changed everything. Nema, he said, when this is over. She smiled, a rare sight even now. When this is over, Elijah Monroe, we will have time for many human kisses. 6 months later, Elijah stood on the observation deck of what the media had dubbed Sanctuary Settlement. The controversy had rocked both human and Kalari societies, protests, diplomatic crises, resignations of officials, but from chaos had come change. Below him spread a community unlike any other on the planet, homes designed with both species in mind, gardens growing both earth and native plants, and at its center, a medical facility specializing in the unique needs of hybrid communities. Admiring your handiwork, asked a voice behind him. Elijah turned to find Thalassa approaching, dressed in the formal attire of her new role as cultural ambassador between the formerly outcast Kalari and mainstream society. The scar across her neck was now visible rather than hidden, a badge of survival rather than shame. Just thinking about how far we've come, he replied. The tribunal results came through this morning. Administrator Donnelly and his security chief will face charges. The Kalari High Council has publicly acknowledged the historical mistreatment of variant citizens. Thalassa's expression remained guarded. Words, paper, the true change is here, she gestured to the settlement below, in how we live now. Elijah nodded, how's your sister? A smile ghosted across Thalassa's features. Supervising the new water recycling system, arguing with your engineers, being Nima. The community hall doors opened below them. Residents were gathering for the evening meal, a tradition started in the tunnels that had continued here in the light. Human and Kalari moving together in a dance of coexistence that had once seemed impossible. The naming ceremony begins at sunset, Thalassa reminded him. Your presence is expected. The naming ceremony, perhaps the most profound of the changes. Kalari culture dictated that names were earned could be taken away. Those declared unclean lost their names, their identities. Tonight, those who wished to would claim new names of their choosing, recognized officially by both governments. I wouldn't miss it, Elijah assured her. After Thalassa departed, Elijah made his way to the engineering complex. As expected, he found Nima there, her slender frame bent over technical readouts, arguing passionately with Jorge about flow rates. The molecular density of Kalari waste products requires additional processing time, she was insisting. Jorge threw up his hands. The system can't distinguish between, he spotted Elijah and grinned. Boss, tell your girlfriend she's asking for the impossible. I've learned better than to get between Nima and technological improvements, Elijah laughed. As Jorge retreated, grumbling good-naturedly, Nima turned to Elijah. In the months since their escape, her transformation had been remarkable. Gone was the tunnel-dwelling outcast. In her place stood a confident engineer whose unique perspective bridged the gap between human and Kalari technology. You're early, she observed, setting aside her work. The ceremony isn't for hours. I wanted to see you alone first, Elijah said, suddenly nervous. From his pocket he withdrew a small object, a ring fashioned from a blend of earth silver and native minerals that shimmered with the same violet hue as the markings on Nima's skin. Her eyes widened in recognition. Though not a Kalari tradition, she had lived among humans long enough to understand the significance. The tribunal approved the first cross-species civil union framework this morning, Elijah said quietly. If you wanted, if you felt. Nima took the ring, examining it with engineer's precision before looking up at him with eyes bright with emotion. In the darkness, you saw me as a person when my own people did not, she said. In the light, you see me as a partner when many still see only difference. She slipped the ring onto her finger, the metal adjusting perfectly to her four-fingered hand, a testament to Elijah's careful design. Yes, she said simply. As sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors, the community gathered for the naming ceremony. 26 former outcasts stepped forward one by one, declaring their chosen names to representatives of both governments. Children born in darkness received their first formal names in the light. When Nima's turn came, she stood tall, her hand clasped in Elijah's. I reclaim my birth name Nima, she declared. And I take a new family name, Monroe Vashti, bridging worlds as I myself am bridged. Later, as celebration filled the settlement with music from two worlds, Elijah and Nima slipped away to the observation deck. Above them stretched the stars, Below them, a community born of crisis and courage. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Nima asked as they looked out over the lights below. "When you found Thalassa in the tunnels?" Elijah nodded. "Every day. One choice," she mused. "You could have fixed the pipe and left, never looked back." "Not much of a choice," he said, drawing her closer. "Not once I saw what was happening." Nima's forehead touched his in the Kaelari gesture that had become their private ritual. "From darkness to light," she whispered. Together, Elijah agreed, completing their promise. Below them, in homes built by human hands for those once forgotten, lights glowed warm against the gathering night, no longer hiding places, but beacons of a future neither world had imagined possible.